Blog Talk Radio.
Please take all the necessary precautions to protect your Constitution while listening to this broadcast. 3, 2, 1. Coming to you live via the internet. It's time for Rage Against the Regime. Let's get ready to rumble! Finally, a show for patriots, defending the Constitution and uncovering the truth at every turn. Bringing you exclusive interviews and covering the topics the mainstream media doesn't dare to touch. Call in and join the discussion at 929-477-3565. That's 929-477-3565. And now, here are your hosts, Bobby Who's the Man and Becky Williams. Rage Against the Regime.
I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Yes, I am, yes, I am, yes, I am. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. I'll make it something.
Yeah. I love that song. My God, Stone Sour. Oh, welcome to another edition of Rage Against the Regime podcast. I am your host, Bobby Who's the Man. Along with me, my trusty sidekick, as always, Becky Williams. What's up, Becky?
Hey, brother. I'm just blessed to be here, man. It was a beautiful day. I wanted to escape from the entire world today and just go fishing or ride the bike, but I was far too busy to get to enjoy those two things. So here we are, another night on Rage Against the Regime. I understand we have a great guest tonight, backed by popular
he's with us. Yeah, he's with us now, actually.
Oh, wow. Well, Andrew, you formed a crowd, brother. I received a lot of good information on you, and a lot of patriots who listened in on the show on Saturday are thrilled to know that you're back with us this afternoon. So, or this evening, you're going to have a pretty good crowd tonight. You formed a groupie cult following.
Yeah, cult resonates kind of a bad word for me. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness until I was 16. But cult it can be. I don't mind.
I feel like you were being stalked, brother.
There you go.
Well, see, the bad thing is Becky missed a good portion of the show, but she did listen to it later on, and yeah, she was quite impressed herself. A lot of people, I've gotten nothing but good feedback from everybody. Everybody enjoyed the show. You know, I can't tell you how many people were like, man, that was a great show, you know, so on and so forth. And yeah, we're proud to bring you back, and you know, we're real happy to bring you back, and we're glad that you were able to join us. So
I'm glad you guys brought me back on. I mean, it's a big thing for me. I mean, you know, I try to make small talk when I can about the things that are going on and try to wake people up, you know, in everyday, you know, life, whether it be at work or, you know, there's ways you can bring these conversations up without people just freaking out on you. And, you know, usually when someone's bringing a topic up, and we've all been there, and even if it's a topic you're not quite comfortable with, you generally won't say anything back until you've heard everything. And even then, a lot of times, at least it, you know, leaves somebody with something to think about, or leaves yourself or myself when someone, you know, brings up a discussion, whether we're for it or not. We generally, at least in America, we generally don't go on the offensive right away, you know. So I think we just need to see more of that in America, more dialogue amongst each other, you know.
Right. Absolutely. You know, I just actually want to let everybody know that we do have the chat room open for anybody that wants to join us in the chat room. You know, we just actually started doing that just recently, and you know, we never opened it up before, but now we have it wide open, and you know, it seems like it's always you know, it's been a real big hit as of late, and just wanted to say that. And then anybody that wants to call in. Okay, I know there's going to be a ton of people besides the people that are on already. We already have, I don't know, quite a few callers online. But anybody that wants to call in, 929-477-3565. That's 929-477-3565. Now, one thing that I wanted to get started on, when I talked to Becky earlier today, we were talking about some information that I just actually happened to fall upon. I actually looked into some of the videos and stuff for the attacks that happened in France. And the day that it happened on was on 1/7/15, January 7th, 2015. The attack happened at 8:15. Both of those numbers together, 8:15, 8:15. Another thing happened. I guess one of the shooters was standing in front of an advertisement for something when a picture was supposedly caught of him on camera, and in front of the advertisement, it was for a watch company, and the advertisement was set for 8:15. Now, I think that it's pretty freaky I mean, I'm actually looking more into it to find out if there's anything else that I can grab on it. But I think it's kind of weird. I think it has a false flag feel to it. And, I'm wondering, and I told Becky that I would not be surprised if we didn't get attacked or have some kind of false flag attack on January 25th, 2015, because that would be 8/15, or on February 6th, 2015. Now, this is just me doing a little premonition and doing my Edgar Casey impression, but I know that's not something that probably isn't your specialty. I know that you're more based around religion and Islam and so on and so forth, but I think it kind of all leads back to that, because with this being, to me, right now we are in a religion war. Okay, absolutely. That's pretty much, that's what it boils down to. We're in a religion war here. So, I mean, what do you think about all that? I mean,
I personally, I'm pretty spiritual. I'm not wouldn't be considered a fundamentalist by no means, especially after growing up with my background as a Jehovah's Witness. But I can tell you this: a lot of strange things have happened in our life. A lot of people, especially atheists, will say, well, these are just coincidences, but I call them synchronicities, where something that's so not likely to happen at the same time, but they both relate to each other. And so, I mean, and the same goes with a lot of numbers. If you look at, whether it be spiritual or a religious thing with the 9/11, for instance, I have to go back and look, but I know there was a lot of things that happened on that date between Muslims and Christians, or something to that effect. I don't want to misquote because I have to do some research on it, but dates are very significant in life. I mean, as far as I wouldn't be surprised if you're spot on with it. Things. Sometimes when you're watching TV or you'll see a news photo online, it's kind of odd some of the stuff that's in the background during these events. And, I've noticed that in the past, and I don't know if it's a synchronous message that's beyond something that's planned or meant to be seen on purpose, or if it's just one of those, something greater working outside of everything, beyond what we could probably see or perceive.
Right. Now, do the Muslims, do they rely on numbers for anything for their religion? Does it have, do numbers correlate at all with their religion?
They may. I haven't actually ever looked that up. That's something good to put on my list. It's just, no, I never really noticed that. Not that I'm aware of. I've never seen that. Okay.
No, it's just curiosity, because I've been sitting here, thinking about some of the other things, that I just happen to fall upon and stuff, and I'm just like, it wouldn't surprise me. You know what I mean? So.
Someone was calling.
Biblically, numbers are very significant. The number 10, the number 7, the number 13. They all have a great significance, and there is a purpose for those numbers described in the Bible concerning God. So that's a great question, Bobby. If there's anybody out there who's versed in the Quran and numerology or the significance of date in correlation with the religion, we'd definitely like to see you raise your hand and chime in on that question, maybe answer it for Bobby.
Well, I did see one thing just now. I was looking real quick, Google, but it was saying, in religion, the Arabic letters of the opening phrase of the Quran, I guess that would be the Shahada, sum to the numerical value of 786 in the system of Abjad numerals. Muslims on the Indian subcontinent use 786 as an abbreviation for the phrase Bismillah, I ain't going to even try it, which means in the name of Allah, the compassionate, the merciful. It is also used in South Asian places with significant Muslim communities of South Asian descent, particularly Myanmar.
So 7, 8, and 6, the number.
Yeah, it's 786. If you go to Wikipedia and type that in, it gives it gives a little section on religion, and that's kind of a significant number for them.
Hey, Bobby, 786.
Yes,
there again, 7 and 8 is 15, correct?
Yeah, 786.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Interesting.
15 and 6 is 21. Yeah, so that is very interesting. 7, 8 is 15.
Interesting. Okay.
I was going to ask you real quick, how do you navigate over to the, and I'm the tech guy, I shouldn't have to ask questions like that, but how do you navigate over to the chat? Because I'm over on the Blog Talk Radio, and I see...
You just go into, it should say, chat with others or something like that, or...
I'll take a look and see what I can find here real quick.
That's a great question for the listening audience as well. They may have been wondering the same thing.
I have my Java script blocked on a lot of pages, so let me see if I unblock it, if I can find it.
Y'all bear with me a minute. I'm going to put you on mute. I'm making myself a cup of coffee.
All right, go right ahead.
Okay.
We're fine.
Yep. So I know that a lot of people are interested to find out what's going on, from this past weekend and stuff. And, a lot of people are still trying to catch up. But I have been seeing a lot of information coming out about, I guess there were more interactions between the two groups than what we have, what we had found out before the last couple days here. I guess, I guess a group of the bikers may have gotten into it with the Muslims, and I don't know. I just been seeing all types of different videos and stuff like that. But I guess that's old news now because Becky pretty much covered that all last night and everything else. But now let's just go into into Islam. We were talking the other day about how they can lie about everything, and I've been seeing all these videos of people saying, oh, you know what, Islam is about peace, and it's about we're very we're very peaceful people. We don't cause harm to people. We don't do anything like that, and a lot of people don't realize that it's actually part of their nature. And it's written in their religious laws that they can actually lie, and as long as it's benefiting jihad and in Islam itself, I would imagine that it's something that they can actually get away with. So maybe you can explain that a little bit more to everybody.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's one of the pages I brought up for tonight. There's a lot of debate with Muslims that say, for instance, a lot of listeners probably heard of taqiyya, especially from the protest. There's a lot of folks with those kind of signs. They're saying that's basically it's a Shia term, and they're basically saying they're arguing that they're saying right wingers use that term. They're saying that was used by Shias because they were a minority in Islam versus the other groups, and so that was a way for them to. The taqiyya is defined as like simulation about one's Muslim identity or I guess their belief. So they can kind of BS as far as what their actual beliefs are because had they been brought out, they would be persecuted or killed. But there's so many different words for lying. Originally, years ago, I heard of the taqiyya, and that's what I used a lot. But then I found out there's more in depth to the types of lying. One of them is a word that probably be more likely to be of interest would be a word known as kitman, just as it sounds, Kitman.
Yeah.
So the word for today will be kitman. It's a concealment, dissimulation by omission. Also related is the concept of hayal, a legalistic deception practice not necessarily in a religious context, but to gain political or legalistic advantage. If I can get in the chat, I'll go ahead and put this link up. Someone's done a really good job here online. I use this page a lot when I'm trying to reference these types of line. Let's go with, I guess, we can go with taqiyya first, I guess. Taqiyya is defined as a dissimulation about one's Muslim identity. It comes from the verse in the Quran that says, let believers not make friends with infidels in preference to the faithful. He that does has nothing to hope for from Allah except in self-defense. This self-defense justifies dissimulation. Islamic Sharia law provides when it is possible to achieve an aim by lying but not by telling the truth, it is permissible to lie if attaining the goal is permissible and lying is obligatory if the goal is obligatory, which, in other words, furthering Islam. They can use lying to protect Islam or a Muslim. In other words, like for instance, this protest event, by omission, by saying, some of the Muslims I talked to, they were saying, well, we don't know anything about Siraj Wahhaz, or I don't know anything about it, I don't have any details on that. They very well could have known who he was and the things he said, but chose to deceive by omission to further the cause before the event started. There's another form of lying called Tawriya. Tawriya is defined as concealing, and it can be called creative lying. It is okay to break the intent of oath as long as you don't break the letter of the oath. Reliance of the Traveler is a book that, would be a big key book for a lot of folks if they want to learn more about Islam to look up, and they can Google it. It's called Reliance of the Traveler. But so in Tawriya, it says suppose someone protests that Surah number 1 of the Quran, that's a verse in the Quran, or the Quran demeans Christian and Jews because it is a supplication Muslims make to Allah 17 times a day to keep them from the path of those whom God is angry and those who have lost their way. A Muslim might respond with, Surah 1 never mentions Jews or Christians. So they're saying they're practicing Tawra because while Surah 1 doesn't specifically mention Jews and Christians by name, they know full well that the words those refer to Jews and Christians. Another example would be, and I'm reading off the page, would be when a Muslim responds to your greeting of Merry Christmas. He might say, I wish you the best. In your mind, you think he has returned a Christmas greeting. In actuality, he has expressed his wish for you to convert to Islam. He wishes the best for you, which in this view is becoming a Muslim. I mean, that may not be the best example they gave there, but it kind of gets to the point. There's two others. One is Kitman. It says Kitman is characterized by someone telling only part of the truth. The most common example is when a Muslim says that jihad really refers to an internal spiritual struggle. He's not telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as witness, anyway. It's kind of a distortion because, I see what they're getting. I'm not going to read any further from the page but on that, but it's saying they're not telling you the whole thing. There's two different types of jihad. There's a greater jihad and a lesser jihad. One involves being passive and trying to spread Islam in a passive way, in passive means, and an internal struggle to make yourself a better Muslim. Then there's a greater jihad, which is fighting physically in the faith. I think greater is where you actually there's a physical aspect to one of the two jihad types. So there's. The last one, I guess, would be Maruna. It's using flexibility to blend in with the enemy or the surroundings. This justification for this kind of deception is somewhat bizarre interpretation of Surah 2, 106, which says, if we abrogate a verse or cause it to be forgotten, we will replace it by a better one or one similar. Thus, Muslims may forget some of the commands in the Quran as long as they are pursuing a better command. Muslims striving to advance Islam, therefore, can deviate from their Islamic laws in order to cause non-Muslims to lower their guard and place their trust in their Muslim counterpart. They're saying that's more of like a chameleon. In other words, Muslims will sometimes shave their beards, wear Western clothing, or even drink alcohol to blend in with non-Muslims. Nothing is more valuable these days to the Islamist and blue-eyed Caucasian Muslim willing to engage in terrorism. Well, I'm not saying that. That's their own kind of opinion. I think it's exaggerated, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's several different types of lying in Islam, and they each kind of have a different place. One may be negating the facts or not telling you. It's kind of like Jehovah's Witnesses when they come to your door. I was one, and I came to the door many times and had it slammed on me, of course, too. But the part of that was when you get to the door, you show them all these pretty pictures of a paradise earth, and you nod off some scriptures, from their materials that you present to the people at the door, like yourself, and so they're seeing like a peaceful side that is promising, and you're like, everybody wants to live forever. And that's part of their belief is you live forever on paradise earth after Armageddon. And others will be resurrected to live alongside you. And the earth will eventually be cleaned up, yada, yada. So what they don't tell you, they tell you all these nice things at the door, how they're one of the fastest growing religions. Jehovah's Witnesses will tell you, they're nice people. Don't get me wrong, and they have good morals and everything. But the fact is, they don't tell you though until after you've become one, and they got you going to their meetings and attending. The discussions get stronger when they come for Bible study. When you eventually become a Jehovah, when you start finding out things like, once you're already kind of under the wraps and you're really falling for this stuff, you find out that you can't take a blood transfusion to save your child's life, or you can't give your child a blood transfusion if they get in a car wreck, or you can't take one yourself. They don't tell you that you're going to have to dissociate yourself from all your friends, family members who are not Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't tell you that you're not going to ever be able to celebrate your birthday again, a holiday, Christmas, any of those, Halloween, Thanksgiving. So that's a form of lying in itself, too. Or not lying, but deceit, deception.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I really meant to get more prepared today with the topics I was going to talk about, but I've been working. I got home and came in and started.
It's good. It's good. Whatever you want to talk about. I mean, like the other day when we were talking, I mean, you covered so many different things. It really didn't even make a difference. I mean, you had it all pretty much covered that, we really don't even have to ask any questions. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's here to listen and learn,
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Bobby, do we have anybody with their hand up?
We do. Here, let me go to the first caller from the 214 area code. Who do we have?
This is Connie. I was just listening.
Hey, Connie. How are you?
How are y'all tonight?
Good.
You mentioned the date 125. I believe that is one of the dates that the Muslims are going to be at the Austin on the Capitol protesting. Have you seen
wait
that?
A minute.
Becky?
So you're saying on 8/15 that they're going to be there?
No. One.
I mean, wait, yeah, right, which comes out to 8/15. Right, got it.
Right. They're supposed to be in Austin on the Capitol building.
Texas Muslim Capital Day.
So,
That's on the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check the date.
I think there's two of them, Becky.
Yeah.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, one on the 29th and one on the 25th.
Well,
one's in Houston and one's in Austin.
Okay, we got January 29th in Houston. No, on Austin. January 29th is on Austin. Texas Muslim Capital Day. It'll be an all-day event. This is sponsored by CARE, by the way, folks. There are no organizations. Yes.
She's right. It says Austin Muslim Unity Day.
Well, it says Capital Day on the flyer that I received, and it's sponsored by CARE, who's put the program together with about 20 other organizations. They all have terrorist ties to them. One would have to question, what the hell is going on in Texas government that known terrorists, co-conspirators, Muslim Brotherhood, ties to Hamas, why does CARE have an establishment here in Texas? We need to really get our heads around that one. And two, why is our law enforcement and our government allowing these maggots to be in my state? Period.
Well, I'm thinking that it has something to do with Mr. Muhammad El-Biari, the former head of Homeland Security that stepped down recently. He's out of Plano, Texas.
Yeah.
They're going for the hardest states. They want to, if you're here to spread Islam and you're trying to gain new converts and trying to stop the push, where are you going to go first? You're going to go to states that have the most Christians probably, or the most, we're in the Bible Belt, where they're going to have the most resistance. That's where they want to go. Because once they go after the bigger states that have more resistance towards Islam, then they have once that's done, then it's all pretty much in the bag.
Well, you're correct, sir. And Texas is the fourth largest growing economy in the entire world. Listen, if they take Texas, and I have something to say here, it's going to be a bit long-winded. If they take Texas, the rest of the nation is done.
Yeah.
We being the state that has carried the brunt of the infrastructure of this country on our backs for the last 4.5 years now, we have every resource to secede this state, take back the original territory of Texas, which would be 5 states total. We have every resource. We have the power grid. We have the import-export Gulf, which is why they're targeting Houston and why they've infiltrated Houston. We are seeing a caliphate. You just mentioned, Andrew, there's 2 forms of jihad. We're experiencing the creeping Sharia jihad. We have experienced the government allowing them, not allowing them, let's just call it what it is, bringing them in for this purpose. They have taken over the small to medium businesses. By and large, the majority of the 70 to 75% of small businesses in this country are owned by immigrants, and that is on the .gov site. This is not smoke I'm blowing up anybody's ass. This is fact.
Right.
Now, the largest percentage of that are actually Muslims. Now, I'm going to paint a real ugly picture for you people so that you get the gist of what the hell is going on, and then you have to ask yourself this question: why the hell are you not standing up in action against these people? And I'm not saying go out guns a-blazing. I'm saying when we call for a protest to counter an incident that's taken place in a metropolis with a population the size that Houston and the surrounding areas have, and we only have 50 to 100 people showing up to counter a terrorist who has been allowed to come into our state and push Islam, you got to question yourself and your real concern about your family and their future, and understand why these folks are here. Listen, the Quran plainly states what their agenda is. It is a militant, political theology. It is not a religion. They have cleverly used the basis of a religion in order to achieve their agenda. He just explained to you what the forms of lies were and the purpose of those said lies, one of them being political, or to give them a foothold in politics and in the courts, and to use your own laws against you concerning religion and state, you name it, they use it. They're very clever in their tactics, but long story short, let me just go to the point. Every corner store that you go into and you do business with, that you think that guy's a good old boy, he's just a peaceful, loving Muslim, is waiting to slit your throat. But meanwhile, under Sharia law, they're to tax the infidel. We're to own nothing. They're to take our goods, our land, and take your women and children as their booty. They're to take everything that you own. You know, there's several ways that they do it, and Andrew just explained some of those ways that they use deception in order to achieve that. Here's what has happened. Our government has passed a couple of bills that you might want to take time to go look at, and if you need me to get them to Bobby to post them up because you just don't know how to search the Internet, I'll do that for you. But they're called private bills. And in these private bills, a certain select group of individuals are excluded from certain things. Muslims are excluded from all taxation. The 7-year myth about, 7 years they're exempt on their businesses, blah, 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 then they give it to somebody else. No. They're completely exempt from taxation, period. What is the reason that they own all the convenience stores that have all the gas pumps? Okay? What is the highest tax that we pay as an individual on any good or service? It would be petrol. It would be gasoline. Now, what they're doing is they're getting a tax-free business handed to them. They don't have to pay the money back. They're opening these businesses up. They have ownership, 100% ownership. There's also another bill where it excludes them from paying interest on purchase of property, exclusively for the Muslims. Our government's doing this. Meanwhile, they're taxing us to death. So what are we saying here? We're saying this. I'm in the merchant service industry. I happen to know what these people do as far as business, just on credit cards and debit cards alone at the counter, because that's the business that I'm in. A convenience store is bringing in anywhere from $250,000 to $400,000 or $500,000 every quarter, tax-free money after operating costs. That is their money. So while you're paying those taxes on goods and services and on gas, they're taxing the infidel via our very own shadow government. Now, that should just really piss you off. You want to know why they own everything and why they're buying up $300,000 and $400,000 homes in the entire neighborhood? It's called establishing the caliphate. They're taking everything away from you, the infidel. They're taking your land. Now they're taking your government. They're going to take your children. They're going to go out, they're going to lie, they're going to deceive, just like the little maggots that came on our side of the protest line the other day, running their heads about how peaceful they are, and that they don't believe in the jihad that's being committed by the radical Muslims. It's a lie. That's all a lie. Read the Quran, read the Hadith. Do your homework. Don't take our word for everything. But this should piss you off. You want to know why these mosques are popping up like they are? You want to know why in a city of 300,000, I've got 13 mosques in my city? You want to know why the Houston area has 68, and 3 or 4 of those are super mosques? You want to know how they bought the land in Sugar Land? They bought thousands of acres in Sugar Land for $250,000. Pennies on the dollar. They didn't pay a penny tax. They don't pay any interest back on car loans, houses, or anything like you and I do. They don't suffer the same oppression and enslavement that we do. Our government brought them here with purpose, and there's several purposes for that. The other thing we'd like to ask the listeners to do
no,
is
I'm on the phone.
Go back and look at the treaty that was signed with Saudi Arabia and the Muslim pigs in 1973, and then you're going to have your answers. You're going to understand how they did a little deal on the oil and gas to bring in their people into the country and establish a foothold in our universities, and to give free education, to give housing, to give benefits, to give them the luxuries under Sharia law in our own country. They're above the law of our land, and they also preach that in the book. And Andrew, if I've said anything out of line there, please correct me on it. But I've done a little bit of study. So
pretty good, and I really like to hear that other people are waking up and doing some research. One of the points I wanted to bring up tonight, because this protest, for instance, it was great. The turnout was awesome. What I think we could have had less of, there were a few provocateurs. There was a black guy that was hanging out of his car yelling at the attendees that were getting ready to turn in their parking lot. He had his fist, and so there was a white guy behind me that yelled out, hit his ass, I quelled that real quick. I was like, no, man, what are you doing? We are upset and frustrated, but what we're doing when we do these things like that is making them look like the victims they want to be portrayed as. 9/11 gathered more converts. The events of 9/11, we lost all those Americans in that building, those buildings, plural. And after that, one of the leaders, I don't know if it was Osama bin Laden, but I remember watching a cleric speak about how 9/11 brought more people to be curious about Islam, and they used that god-awful attack to get new converts. They want to compare, we're not like that, so they can show themselves in contrast. We're peaceful, we're not like that. That's just the radicals. That's the big problem we're having now. We saw some different Jews over there with them, and Christians, or the little girl was handing out flowers and saying, she was a Jew and she wasn't a Muslim, but she was just trying to. So, look, she might have a good heart, granted, and they might be. I think they're lost. I don't think they know. It's just like people who don't.
They weren't Jewish, bro.
I hate keep using my past religion as a Jehovah's Witness to compare, but they're very, very similar. You see them at the door. They're very nice people. You could probably bring one on a witness stand and not worry about the thought of them even thinking about lying. But that's not the thing is, there's a deeper aspect of it that the outside doesn't see, that my friends at school acquaintances, worldlings we call them. They were called worldlings. You and I are considered worldlings. If you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you are a worldling. And so we were alienated as children. And that's the same with the Muslim followers. A lot of these children are alienated. They're taught that this is the only truth, and it's, you know, every religion believes it's the true religion to some extent, but it's a fundamentalist, when it's strong like that, so instilled into you as a child, then, you know, that's when it gets out of hand. You know, that's when, you know, deceit comes in, when you don't tell everybody the whole story until after they're already a part of your organization or your cult. Then that's when you would say the bomb's dropped on you, but by that time you're already brainwashed and it doesn't matter. They could, anything else that you challenge, they're going to come back at you and say, give a reason for it and make it pretty.
You're correct.
You know, I think that what we want to do is start having, you know, more networks like this. You know, even, you know, if we could just start getting the word out more, the people that are listening, you know, get on your Facebook. If you don't know how to share, a lot of people that I tutor are older folks. If you don't, you know, and technology's passing me by too. I'm only 40, but my kids are showing me stuff that I'm a tech that even was aware of. So, but what you can do is you can always ask that grandson of yours or your son, hey, can you show me how I can share? Share links like this. Share these kind of shows so that we can open the dialogue up and get people interested. Take them away from their cable TV for a minute, and they can be engaged in a conversation for events that have happened, like in France, and what's happened during the Boston bombing, what's happened in 9/11. We've
had a lot of conversations about that, and the problem is, too many people are attached to the hip, to their electronics, to their technology, to their computers, to whatever. When's the last time you went out to a restaurant? When's the last time you went out to a restaurant and you could actually sit there and you looked and seen all those people just literally sitting down together and having a meal and nobody was on their phone?
Right, Bobby. But you know, just what you said there brought an idea, and I've thought it before, is why not use that to our advantage? What we're doing right now through the internet, we got people stuck in their computers but listening to something that's going to help educate them. Why not make the Truth About Islam app? You know, I think my 10-year-old, my 11-year-old, he could probably figure out how to make an Apple app, The Truth About Islam, where we could go through and you could tap through it. Yeah, I'm sure it might get shut down. Apple, I worked for them for 2 years, and, you know, it goes through some scrutiny. They may say, you know, people will start whining and complaining. That's why our name is different on Facebook. You guys aren't going to be able to find us the same way you did before, who haven't friended us already. We were debating with the protesters back in their Facebook page for the Garland protest. They're still going at it. And my wife, while I was gone at work today, was holding down the fort, man, and she's getting in there and posing questions to them about why a lot of non-Muslims, not all, but a lot of non-Muslims weren't being allowed in that bought tickets. And Sound Vision personally started coming back and responding. We've actually got the attention of Sound Vision now whenever we go in there and chat. They don't like what we put up. They like when people make derogatory remarks. They like it when people post pictures of somebody, you know, in a position behind a goat, okay? That does not help us out at all when people post those kind of things. You need to get online and not just copy-paste the first thing you see, but double-check what you're posting first and reply before you post it to make sure that you can see the apologetic side of it, of Muslim arguing, okay, well, this Quran verse doesn't mean this. And so you can have a little bit of, you know, because if you do that, then you end up getting one of these guys that are, you know, born Muslim, and they know how to answer to these things, and you end up looking a fool and then tuck your tail behind your legs and walk away. So it's good to really know before replying and not just go off your anger and replying and debating with them. They're hardcore. Right. It's like arguing with my mother. She's a Jehovah's Witness. She's been one since I was born. And arguing with her is ridiculous. We bring up Scripture. We bring up different things that they've done in the past, of false prophecies. And, you know, it doesn't matter. They're brainwashed. She just calls it old light. That's what the Jehovah's Witnesses call the failed prophecies. They call it old light, now they have new light. But the old light that they were preaching about back in the day was handed down from the Watchtower Society governing members, leaders, and it was considered a channel through God. In other words, they were getting this information through Jehovah God and disseminating it amongst their followers. So then when the prophecies didn't come true, 1800s they had one, in 1914 the end of the world was coming, 1916 I believe, and it goes on and on. 1940s, 1975, there was a phrase that they used, stay alive until 75, or prior to 75. And when these things don't happen, the followers keep following because they correct themselves and say, oh, this is old light. And so Muslims are very much the same way. It doesn't matter, some open their eyes, some will listen, and it's not going to be a lot. Don't get depressed if you can't, talk reality to them. That's just the way it is with brainwashing. I was one of those. I was brainwashed growing up. And I tried to save my friends on the playground that I liked, and would try to get them to come to the Jehovah's Witness. It's very similar. It's shockingly similar, just not as radical or physical as Islam.
Well, brother, we had a situation, and you telling these folks to gird themselves up with knowledge. I mean, the thing that I preach on here constantly is knowledge is power in any arena, and you need to gird yourself with that. We had a situation. We had many provocateurs that were at that protest, some on both sides, but most specifically, those little Jewish girls weren't Jewish girls.
Probably not.
First of all,
I don't think they were either, but they claimed. I think
no,
that was.
No, they weren't, and I called them out on it, and I made one so angry she turned around and gave me a death look, at which point I told her she was grounded to go home for lying. And the crowd, of course, broke out in laughter, which further infuriated her, but we were trying to get them back across the other side. We were not allowed on their side of the fence, but they certainly kept coming over to our side to try to cause agitation so that it could be documented or filmed that we were violent and that they were peaceful and that they were attacked or whatever. And
right.
one Muslim maggot came out of the center. At the end of the day, there was about a handful of us, maybe 40 or 50 of us had gathered across the street. Most of the patriots had left. It's about 8:30 at night. We're waiting for them to disperse out of the center. And they kept sending people out to come in and try to talk to the few patriots that were still in the crowd to lie to them and try to twist words and then provoke them into anger. And there was a very educated, very articulate Christian black family there. And one of these guys came out in a tie and a dress shirt, and he came out of the center, and he came over, and he started asking her questions, why do you hate Islam? Why are you here? That kind of thing. And she started responding to him because I don't believe in what you believe in, number one. Number two, and she started going down the list of what they do when they come in and damage the community. And he said, have you ever read the Quran? And she said, no, but I don't need to read the Quran in order to understand what's going on here. And he said, well, you're just illiterate. Well, that pissed me off. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, it pissed me off pretty good. So I walked up behind her and I said, you need to shut your Islamic mouth. Don't call her illiterate. She's not illiterate. And I started hammering with verses out of the Quran, and I started hammering him with the book it came out of, what chapter. And I told him the best thing you can do is get your Islamic ass back across that barricade because you're over here to provoke. Do not bring your jihad theology to the plate right here and try to provoke us. Finally, a couple of people escorted him back across the barricade. And I said a few other expletives there. I'm not going to say on the air, but that's the gist of the conversation. I called him out on his tactics and what he was exactly there to do, which was to incite the crowd or incite an individual and cause a physical confrontation. And I nipped it in the butt. They do it, and they did it all day that day. And those two little Jewish girls, I was all over them with the bullhorn, telling them, take yourself back across. You're a liar. You're no more Jewish than I am.
I mentioned to Bobby earlier in a chat, we got I believe I sent a message about it, but we actually got followed from there. You know, I'm not all paranoia aside. We got followed. I think a lot of it had to do with my sign. Because we have children, I try to, if we can avoid, my location anyway. For now, it's a small town, and you know what? Whatever, so be it. If it happens, we're prepared, but the best we can be. But no, we were followed. I'm very observant individual as far as I may not remember your name, but I'm very visually observant and about my surroundings. And my wife is more the quiet type. She's sitting right here with me. But we both, I looked in the rearview mirror. She was looking in the passenger mirror and then turned around and looked. They were like pacing at an exact amount of space behind us. I mean, not closer, not further, just all the way down. It's not a major thoroughfare in Garland, and there was hardly any other cars. I don't even think I saw but maybe one or two other cars, but they were right on us, and we were about to get to her parents' house to go pick up the kids. And I thought, if they are following us, man, I don't want them to know where her parents live. So I took a quick right, and all of a sudden they threw their brakes and turned right with us. So once I knew they were right behind me, and there's quite a few side streets, up and down this one road. And so I took another immediate right because it was right there. As soon as you turned, there was another side street off the side street. And it was too quick for them, so they had to keep going straight, and they slowed down. We turned back around to go back out that way. They couldn't turn around because there was cars on both sides of the street. There was no room for them to turn around. They would have to go straight and follow up around the block. But they were sitting right there with their brake lights on, probably trying to figure out what to do. But, we don't know what that was about. I know we had a pretty offensive sign that I got a lot of death stares. In fact, Abdul Malik looked straight at my sign. He was looking at everybody's sign. I called him out once I figured out who he was. He was driving a tannish, or goldish color Mercedes-Benz. He pulled into the lot. Now, the good thing is to make you guys feel better, whoever is listening that was part of the protest, feel good about this. Abdul is the one who founded Sound Vision. Abdul Malik Mohajid. And he was looking over at everybody's sign that he's stuck there waiting to turn in. I looked straight at him and start pointing at my sign, and he would look over every now and then then look straight ahead and then kind of put his head down, almost like he was very depressed. I could tell that he was disheartened by the amount of protesters that showed up. They're trying to downplay the amount of people who showed. In your thoughts, how many do you think showed? I'm guessing at least 1,500, minimum 1,500, and that's being a conservative.
Oh yeah, there was thousands there. And what was most disheartening about that is that the liars in the media and the way that WFAA, CBS News Network here locally demonized us was it was deplorable.
Right, and they said in one site of news, I don't know if it was NBC5 or 8, it said dozens showed, and in the same paragraph they're talking about hundreds showed up to protest, and then it said dozens of people below the main heading. And then you look at these aerial shots. Some of them are before the main protesters even got there. When we first arrived, there was probably about 100, a little over 100, and those shots were taken that they show the aerial shots like there wasn't that many. But before it started, man, I swear to I at least had close to 1,500, 2,000. And on the website, Abdul Malik Mohajid is all bragging, saying, quote for quote, he's saying that, if I can find his little comment, but he basically, here, I'll pull it up. Yeah, he said 400. He said 400, and then he said, we had 700 attendees. Well, no, I call you on that, Mr. Abdul Malik. I even posted it to their event page because he's a liar. That ballroom that they were hosting in for the event is 400 seated max capacity, 600 for a standing event. So 400 seated is nowhere near 700 that he's claiming has showed up. Garland, they're not going to play around when it comes to with your fire and safety. Yeah, that's a big deal. You can't. Right. I've been there. I used to go to raves, those little dance things, they'd hold them at different buildings, randomly, and we would show up there. Fire chiefs come in if there's more people than what that building was allowed to hold and run everybody out.
Shut it down.
Yes. That was my old day. I'm not so wild anymore. I got kids. we're lucky if we even get out once a year.
Yeah, right. You know what? Let me give out the number again. I have people asking me for the number, which I'm not quite sure how they don't have it already. 929-477-3565 is the phone number. 929-477-3565. Anybody that has any questions, please press the number 1 when you call in, and we will bring you online and get to your question. Connie, do you have anything else?
Connie, do you have a copy of the lease that you can read that you sent to me?
You're talking about the succession?
For the lease for that convention, you sent me a lease about the discrimination where folks were denied entry. Weren't you the one who sent the lease paperwork on that? Could you share that with the audience that we have here today? And
I don't
pardon?
I don't have it. I don't have it in front of me. It's on my phone. But there was so much discrimination. Waters even bought a ticket from Bill O'Reilly. Bought a ticket, and they gave him back his money and refused him to come in that building. In the lease deal, they can't discriminate on your religion or anything else, and they did. Now, people's talking lawsuit. All of a sudden,
I believe it's on the Garland page.
Right.
I'm sorry.
All of a sudden,
believe it's on the Garland page.
Yes, right. So, what do we do? Do we continue to sit back while they take over Texas? Do we file for succession? Do we put our energy, instead of protesting and them saying we're fools and idiots out there, why not build a fire and start talking about succession?
Well,
if they want to live here, that's fine. Pay your taxes like every American does.
That's a great idea.
No.
The hardest part with all this is, we're even catching flack from the Pope, okay? The Pope just came out recently and said that people's faith were not to be said religions had to be treated with respect so that people's faiths were not insulted or ridiculed. To illustrate his point, he told journalists that his assistant could expect a punch if he cursed his mother. These remarks came after funerals were held for the 4 people in an attack killed by militant Islamists. But it just, I'm not talking about the French. I'm not sure what they're quoting here, but I know for a fact the Pope Francis flat out said, hey, he staunchly defended freedom of expression, but then he said there were limits, especially when people mocked religion.
We can't even get our churches to stand up for us.
I mean, they're holding Muslim prayers there was a cathedral. Where was that at, Suzanne? I think it was in Washington, D.C. A cathedral allowed Muslims to come in and pray. They turned away from the cross. They tried to avoid looking at the atonements that were around hanging up. But that kind of reminds me. I don't want to go all biblical or anything, but there's a Bible scripture I recall that says something of abomination in being held in the holy place. When you see I'll find it in a minute here, the image of abomination standing in a place of worship. I wouldn't doubt if it's talking about what's happening now with our churches. That's kind of a spit in the face to hold Islamic studies. Yeah, the abomination of desolation. That's something people can read up on. Religious or not, it's kind of weird. The Pope
allowed them in the Vatican to pray during Ramadan.
People have theories about it becoming Chris-Islam instead of Christianism and Islam, Chris-Islam, where they try to get together, long story short, you can ask any Muslim, moderate or not, and ask them the final prophecies, and also I don't know if it was in the, I'll have to look Quran or the Hadith, where it's highly, the majority of Muslims believe this, but basically end times, the jewel behind it, Jew will be hiding behind a tree or a rock, and the rock will cry out, hey, there's a Jew hiding behind me, kill him. I mean, what can they say to that?
Yeah.
You know, that's where you can stump them. I think the biggest thing, and Suzanne just handed me a piece of notebook paper. She wanted to get something across. We need more liberals than atheists rallying to our side. I think we need to do, a lot of us Texans tend to come out and say how we feel, and that's fine. I can be rather blunt at times, but I think we need to use the same strategies that the Islamic movement is using. That's being passive, using soft-spoken words. I mean, I think even Jesus said something about soft-spoken words. Sometimes those will garner more attention and power than getting upset. It's kind of like, if you had siblings when you're younger, they're lying to your mom and dad about something, and then you just go off half-cocked and start yelling back, and then all of a sudden your parents are getting after you. It's kind of the same way. We've all had that kind of experience, even maybe in the workplace where, they're trying to gun up for the boss, and they make it look like you weren't doing your work or your best work, and you get all infuriated or get upset about it, and then it looks like you're the one that's got the problem. And I think that's what we need to stop. We need to stop all these. We need to try to stop these people when you see them posting memes of, a piece of poo on the Quran and a piece of bacon. Yeah, it's funny. It kind of I kind of find it funny, but hey, all that's going to do is further violence on that end, and it's going to make us look like everybody's going to get lumped into the same group and category. We need to take those people and message them and let them know. Kind of like I posted a song called "Islam's Not For Me." It's a funny song. It's not offensive. It just talks about the Muhammad and Aisha. But someone said, hey, you should probably take that down off of their event page because all that's going to do is fuel their fire. You know what? I probably didn't need to remove it, but I thought, okay, if someone else sees that as offensive who's against what they're doing, then you know what? Then maybe I should take it back. And instead replace it with intellectual words and quotes from the stronger hadith that they believe in.
Okay, question.
Well, brother, I think that we've already, the caliphate, and going back to what I was talking about economically, if you understand the economics of Sharia, you understand the scripture where it plainly states their position and who we are to them, and what they feel they have the right to, and that the only law they adhere to is Sharia law. And we see global governments that have bent to that have allowed the no-go zones, that have allowed the terrorists to, within their own borders, establish no-go zones and terrorize the individuals. In Quran, in the book of Quran, in chapter 8, in verse 12, it clearly states that they are to strike terror in the hearts of the non-believers. And we see collectively a global government conducting the orchestration of furthering the agenda of Islam across the world. And in Sound Vision, they are a group that openly posted immigrate, infiltrate, and caliphate. And that is their agenda. And they will do it by any means of deception that they can. And we are seeing governments that have allowed them to receive the booty or the financials for their economic terror to establish a caliphate in a region. And until Americans understand that these things have already played out in our country, Obama is one of them. He is a sleeper cell. Obama was not voted in. Your vote doesn't count for shit. Study Electoral College, understand who places the commander-in-chief in this country, and you fully understand that there are no laws, either federal or constitutionally, that govern or dictate, or even an oversight committee that controls the electoral vote. The way that they change the number of electoral votes for those states is to change the population. It's only by the population, depopulation, or repopulation of a given area of any state that will either take away or add to an electoral vote for a said region. That is why you saw the borders opened up and people being put on buses and planes through that border and taken and put in specific areas. My roommate, I've known for 26 years, is a flight attendant for a major airline. She only flies international. For 3 years or more, she has been expressing her concern that when she comes back into the States from areas like the UK and France and some of the other areas closer to Israel and those regions, that our government is shipping in 100 to 150 people, sometimes 200, that are Muslims. When they get here, they don't go through the same security that we have to go through immigration, coming through the door. They go to another line, and they're herded in like cattle. They already know where they're going to live. They take them once they're in America, and they are set up in housing. They have medical. They have money aside for their business to be started. They have car programs. They have everything that they need when they come in, and that's one airplane. Thousands of airplanes have been flying in and out internationally around the globe, different airlines, and this is occurring on every airline, and it's been going on since 1973, since the treaty with Saudi Arabia. So what you have to understand is this has been a very well-strategized infiltration under the guises of immigration and refugee status, and then they open the borders up. Folks, we are in a lot of trouble. We are in a ton of trouble. They're in our DHS. They're in our courts. They're in our municipalities. They're in our police departments. He has decimated our military. They recruit inside the military. They're in our prison system. There's a heavy recruitment going on across this nation through the prison systems themselves for Islam. We are seeing folks like, and I'm being nice, I was going to call him a maggot, but I won't go there. The leader, he calls himself King for the Black Panthers, openly in the street with a megaphone calling for the death of, the murdering of all whites, including the children, the women, the pregnant women, the men, your sons and daughters. And there is nothing being done by our own police force or government. We're seeing corrupt mayors. We're seeing them in our Congress. We're seeing them in our universities. The charter schools now are being taken over by a Muslim billionaire. You can look it up. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. There is a Muslim billionaire that owns the largest majority of the charter schools in the country today. And they are starting to only employ Muslims to teach the children in those charter schools. You folks better know where you're putting your kids to be educated. Common Core. I interviewed children at the event this weekend out of the Mesquite and the Garland School District and was told the same thing from those families. Common Core is teaching the pillars of Islam. They're not learning any other religion. It is an indoctrination. C-Scope and many other names that it was hidden under. It's all Common Core in every state, and our very own government is the nonprofit organization. Our government gives us federal funding for education. They go in as a nonprofit organization, hawk the material to us in our state, give us federal funding for it, then make money back on it. It's a Ponzi scheme. The mother of Common Core is called UNESCO, UNESCO. Look it up. It is out of the UN. It is a Muslim curriculum, and it is being implemented globally. These things that I tell you are absolute facts, and if you folks don't get on board, you're done. The caliphate is already established. They're praying on our Capitol steps. They're opening up our Congress with the Muslim prayer. They're in the municipalities opening up council meetings with Muslim prayer. We are seeing this across the board. They're enjoying your prosperity. They've been given the money and funding to open businesses and take over corporations. They are not suffering the same tax that you're suffering. The Muslim mole piece of shit that is in the White House is now about to increase your taxes yet again. Some people are paying as much as 58% of their income tax, or their earnings in income tax. Muslims don't have to pay anything. They're walking on you in a creeping Sharia. The caliphate is already being established. I believe it's already here, and they are here to kill you. And when this economy crashes, when we see the dollar crumble, the horror you're going to see in the street because you were too complacent and unwilling to stand up and take action and remove tyranny from this country so that we could clean up the vermin that they've brought in that are here to finish you off. And you call me crazy if you want to, but if you do your homework, you'll see what I'm saying is true. You either get up and do something, or we're done.
Can I interject?
Yes. Yes.
Becky knows what the meeting was that they held here in Garland. 6 hours after the protest was over, on Facebook, they showed their building that they're building out here on George Bush in Garland. They have their own separate Sharia law court.
Yes, ma'am.
They sure do. And if you don't think we're not in trouble,
but absolutely, we saw that earlier. I think we posted it to our Facebook. It's been spreading all across, all over. Here's the thing: we can talk about. We already know these things are going on. We want to awaken others to it, but we need to become proactive. It's a dangerous sometimes, but
we sure do. Our time's running out real fast.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
and this is not just here in Texas. We're talking about all these other northern states that they're already got. The Sound Vision. Out of that, they have a bookstore. I went and Googled the address and saw it's a little bookstore on the corner. And there's several other Islamic businesses in that area. It's like called an enclave, kind of like, which I have no problem with. It's like the Asian markets areas of Richardson. Or I don't know if they're there anymore. I know I've heard rumors that a lot of them are left.
House. Not trying to cut you off. It's really, really close to my house, and that whole area is all. It's either Gandhi, Hindu, or Muslim. The whole area, that street.
That's what I heard. I heard it's changed. I grew up there. I remember Richardson Square Mall. I used to go there all the time, and I haven't been there in a couple of years, so.
Right.
Someone else had told me that the Asians kind of got run out, and now it's more Middle Eastern folks. But I mean, and by the way, I have no problem with Arabs or Middle Eastern people of those descent. It's what I have a problem with is a cult, and a cult that's pushing too hard. Like a boy on a first date. It's happening on a physical front. We got ISIS. They've been around for a while. This is nothing new. I mean, they weren't called ISIS back in the day, but in 2012, they've been around longer than that. But in 2012, we saw those black flags flying, and I mentioned this on a last conversation we had. This black flags, people need to understand what this is. Okay, Obama's administration is fully aware what the black flags are. It's a prophecy. The black flags of Khorasan. Khorasan being spelled, if your listeners, I can't get in the chat, I can't find it, but Khorasan.
Yes.
Khorasan. Type in the black flags of Khorasan, and then you read that prophecy, which says when the black flags, and ISIS themselves and Al Qaeda are saying this is the prophecy happening, where when you see the black flags of Khorasan flying from Khorasan, which is Afghanistan, heading toward Jerusalem, it said it would be better to something. I don't remember exactly the word for it or what the sentence they said, to die doing something than better to join them rather. Sorry, I don't have it right in front of me, but it's basically saying it's worse to do something than to join up with them. So basically, if you see them coming, join up with them, and that's why there's so many young people joining up with them. This started off as 2,000 to 3,000 radicals. Now it's turned into what? Close to 30,000 now, and growing, with sophisticated weaponry that they got off the Iraqi military, and money that's being sent into them. Now they also got control of some of the oil fields. I mean, this is, just because it's happening in the Middle East, these people are already here. They're within America. They're in UK. They're in the UK. They're in Australia, and they've already bragged. I mean, they just released a video recently, ISIS did, saying that if you're in Australia to attack wherever you can and become a lion for Allah. They're called lions. We've seen people make comments, and a Muslim will come back and say, there's got to be a lion out here that can go ahead and, take care of this problem for Allah. So, I mean, a lot of these events that happen here, I'm sure there's been murders in Texas and elsewhere across the country that are really done by these jihadis or these lions, so to speak, and it's considered, like in the case of Hassan, a well-publicized case, he was workplace violence. Even prior to trials, he's talking about, I did this because of, Al-Qaeda, or something similar to that. He was saying he was doing it for an Islamic reason. The problem is the administration, we're infiltrated. We've already been infiltrated. And this sounds conspiracy to maybe some liberals and lefties that might be listening to this, but, do your research. It's here. Why is it we're the only country that keeps on calling it terrorism instead of what it is? It's Islamic terror. They won't use that word.
They won't even call it terrorism, brother. The Obama administration, I like to call him butt rock insane, Obama, a.k.a., he took out from municipal law, from state law, from FBI, from the training manuals for anybody, even the military. He changed the definition of terrorist and terrorism. It can have no association to Islam at all.
That wasn't necessarily Obama directly. That was his henchman, Mohammed Ali Biari, who's considered a moderate. If you go to Mohammed Ali Biari's Facebook, you'll see he's got a cowboy hat on, trying to look like he's fitting in with the West and everything, America.
No. It was Obama.
Well, under his direction.
Yeah,
it was under his direction because Mohammed Ali Biari was the head of Homeland Security. He actually went in and scrubbed a lot of that.
Who in fact was appointed by whom?
Huh?
The Obama.
Well, right, exactly. Yeah. It's like Charles Manson type deal, Charles Manson didn't actually do it himself, but he had others carry it out for him, and that's who Mohammed Ali Biari. And now we just recently brought on a female Muslim. I don't know her name off. I can find it if it's a Google search, but we just brought her in as an advisor to national security.
Fatima is her name. Fatima Noor or Noor.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I think you're right. Absolutely. I think it's Fatima Noor. And if people kind of open up their eyes, I know I've been arguing with lefties and atheists, and what's nice is I'm starting to see more atheists saying, screw Islam and Christianity, fundamentalists, Westboro, all together. And you know what? I shouldn't phrase it like that. Nice to see. Your enemy is my enemy type of deal. Atheists are not. Christians don't go hanging them from cranes. Christians aren't burying them up to their chest and stoning them. Okay. So if atheists come to, whether you're a Christian, just spiritual, whatever you may, the goal needs to be, we are all one against a common enemy. We can deal with our other issues later. We can deal with atheists pushing this later down the line, or whatever. That's not the important thing. Everybody's going to be screwed, And when it's all said and done, atheists ain't going to have a place with Islam, pushing for Sharia compliancy in America. That hasn't happened yet. People can laugh at me for saying that, but it's slow and steady is the key. Slow and steady, and America's always been like that, with slow and steady. Glenn Beck, I don't really care for him much anymore, but he wrote a book my wife read called The Overton Window, or Overton Box. The Overton Window, basically saying it's a window that gets moved in front of the public's eye, so if it goes what the public is willing to accept. So if it goes too far over to the right, they shifted back, but yet it still moved over further than what it was before. And if you guys who are listening can think about it, think about the way society's changed with what's considered okay. Look at the violence in the movies now. I used to see some of the horror movies in my younger years, like Freddy Krueger, Jason, all that stuff. But it's gone beyond it. Now we're getting so graphic. You're seeing entrails and you're seeing blood splatter across your screen. It's been slow but steady. Little more. Wait, people are freaking out. Now move the window back. But still, the window is still further than it was before. Same thing with, with Lady Gaga, or let's say with Miley Cyrus. It went from, the Hannah Montana, real innocent type, and then, we've had, Marilyn Manson and those folks, but not to the degree that it's happening now, to where just, there's no morals whatsoever in Hollywood anymore. There is no apprehension in what they're doing, and they keep on pushing it. And what that's doing is destroying us as a westernized civilization that used to be looked up to. That's why people flooded over here, because we had something to be proud of. The only thing, without getting off track, I guess the focus is we need to be having these kind of shows and get more people to listen, get more people to ask questions, and come up with a stealthy way. They call it stealth jihad. You can look up civilization jihad. It'll wake up a lot of people tonight. They can look at it tomorrow, bookmark it, but I definitely encourage you to find that document that was seized during the Holy Land trials in Richardson, Texas, to pull up that document and read on page 16 where they explain how they're going to destroy us by our own hands. This was written in 1991. Here we are in 2014, and it's happening. Not the way they expected it to, but it's still happening, and we have a chance to stop it. It's not going to be by yelling at them, posting memes of a goat being, sodomized by a man. That's not going to do it, because all that does is destroy the cause. It destroys the movement. We need to be intellectual about this. We need to get into the hadiths. It sucks. I'd rather spend my day playing Skyrim or hanging out with my kids, but there's going to be points where I have to take myself away and focus on the big fight, the one that's coming.
It's not coming. It's already here. The fight
it's already here.
It's not coming. It's already here. And listen, I'm going to tell you something. When they give you the numbers that they give you, whether it be on the stock market, the recession recovery, even the population, since 1973, and this is a fact, look it up, they have been bringing the Muslims here by the plane loads. By the plane loads. More than what they're stating in census. And if you folks don't believe that almost 1/3 of our population is Muslim already, you better look it up. They're either Muslim or they're an immigrant.
Well,
since
part of
1973.
That's part of that civilization jihad document. That wasn't meant for Western eyes. And it basically says, while you are a minority in the country you are rooting in, now rooting like a tree, you should go along with the laws, but you also, throughout it describes ways to spread Islam through becoming part of the system. And in other words, not assimilating, but through deceit, like going into the judiciary system, so then you can influence law, bringing it in, getting seats of position within the educational system, so then you can create a loss of word for, I guess, studies or for a curriculum, and it's happening. We're already seeing it. I mean, all over. It's just it's getting to a point where even, like I said, the nice thing is even lefties and atheists are starting to wake up. We all need to work together, regardless of our views on, pro-life, pro-choice, homosexual marriage. We're getting distracted, all that. We're fighting each other. We need to look at the enemy that will hurt both of us. Lefties always call us right-wingers or fundamentalists or uber-conservative or neocons. Look, they need to take a long look at the history of Islam, and they'll figure out that there's a worst of two, and in their eyes anyway. I'm not talking about worst of two us, because that'd be talking bad about myself, but the worst of the two is uber conservative fundamentalist group like Islam. Chopping of the hands. That Siraj Wahhaj, the guy one of the main speakers, was talking about chopping off the hands, 100 lashes. He talked about replacing the constitutional government with Islamic law. I mean, this isn't a joke. That's his quotes. And everybody that, every Muslim that I debated with at that protest, they're saying, well, even in that vet page that they have, we're saying, well, I haven't seen it. I would like to see quotes from where he actually said it. He ain't denying it. Wake up. You can post it all day long. I like to see him quoted saying that and where, when. Don't you love an uneducated debater? I mean, that's what that is. That's an uneducated debater who's too damn lazy to go get the truth, and they want to refute or debate your statement based on fact, and it's ignorance. They're good at it. They're master debaters.
Yeah.
That didn't sound right.
But no, that was good.
I caught it.
I thought about that too. Yeah, they are master debaters, but they left their batteries in the trunk. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't know how to turn the tool on.
Men don't use batteries, Becky.
We can't change. Bobby, you're in Chicago. I'm sure you see it all around you. What we need to do is be looking at areas that have already got enclaves, and look at Britain and the UK. Britain and Australia. Look at what they're dealing with. I see videos all the time of these Muslims just freaking going out in large numbers and getting aggressive and violent, and they're demanding that you can't have a picture or a emblem of a pig on your desk at work anymore, or you can't bring your dog on the bus because it's offensive to them, or
you can't.
Yeah, you can't bring a cross at your desk because it's offensive. I don't even think in Texas, I think in Texas for some of these big corporates like Thomson Reuters, I worked for them. They were huge. It's a big corp. And I guarantee if I had my cross hanging from my desk, if one of the Muslims there didn't like it, I know how Thomson would react. I'm very well familiar with that company. Thomson would have had me remove it and said it offended somebody. I mean, you're talking about a company that has an internal employee forum dedicated just to LGBT, where they talk about their favorite movies, they talk about a lot of homosexual stuff. Each their own, that's fine, but why has it got to be in my workplace? Why do I have to log into my internal? No public can see this, but it's I stand behind every word I'm saying. I was there, I saw it with my own eyes. A whole month dedicated to diversity LGBT. Now, where is a whole month dedicated to heterosexuality, since that's what I prefer? But where is that? It's not there. It's missing. My boss was gay. He sucked at being a boss. He would never come have meetings with us. His name was Darnell Hester. You look it up. He was the head of technical support. He would never even come talk to the team. He would never get involved when there was a problem. I mean, we had guys that would surf the net and put their customers on hold, watch movies, go down and get something to eat and come back while the customer's still sitting on hold. I bring these things up to him. He's too passive. And he got the job because his boss was a formerly divorced female, looked like she could beat somebody up, and I'm not saying anything. The other techs told me they weren't against him necessarily. They just told me that he got the job over somebody who was more well qualified. He was an internal employee, and they moved him from a tech into a management position, and it was her that made that decision. So I mean, there's a lot of what do you call it when. Not segregation, but it's on the opposite end now. Now, discrimination. That's discrimination to me. When someone from the outside who has more qualifications and has been a manager before loses the opportunity because someone who's internal has a certain familiar or similar view or lifestyle.
Well,
anyway, I'll go off on that.
We've seen this happen.
That aggravated. For real. You got all these internal forums about business quotas and the tech support or the photography end of Reuters, and then you got this one dedicated solely to LGBT diversity. I don't get it.
He couldn't hear you, Becky. Go ahead.
We've seen this happen across the board for the last 40 years in preference for a particular ethnic group where they were not qualified for the position, but because of the laws that have been implemented, they were given a position for diversity purposes.
like the survey you get when you're filling out an application online, or even in person. They ask you, you don't have to answer it. Are you Caucasian? Are you Black, Hispanic, or of Latino descent?
Correct.
Are you a veteran? I mean, not ragging a veteran aspect, but the fact is that because companies are, you probably know more than I do, Connie, about those things as far as companies are given incentives to hire those who are minority race, and that's a discrimination in itself.
Well, I tell you what, Bobby, you've got to have somebody on there that's got their hand up. Let's engage some of these folks out here that have questions or have something more that they can bring to the table. I would encourage those of you who may be in the California, Los Angeles area to acknowledge that the UCLA is about to do what Duke had presented, which is to have a call for Islamic prayer broadcasted on Fridays at 1 p.m. To the entire campus. I would please encourage you to stand up and do something. We press Duke University, and you need to press UCLA in the same manner, and do not allow the call to Islamic prayer in this country to be audible to anyone outside that religion being broadcast, especially in our universities. That is another example of making a very broad statement of ownership or established foothold root, if you will, by Islam, which is part of the caliphate. It is an announcement. So I would really ask people in California, please do what you're supposed to do and be proactive. I don't care if you only have 5 people and you all have to spend 2 hours out of your day burning that phone up and making a phone call and hanging up and calling right back and hanging up and calling right back. Do what you need to do. And then I would encourage you to go to the alumni. You'll be able to find the alumni for UCLA. There'll be a listing, and I would encourage you to contact them to help you press the issue. Go ahead, brother. See if we have somebody online that would like to speak to Andrew.
In all actuality, we don't. I mean, we have some callers, and actually, I don't know. We actually had, we had at one time about 18 callers or something, and now nobody actually has their hands up, though. So if anybody has any questions, by all means, raise that hand, press that number 1, get your questions in. Anybody that's listening that would like to call in, the number is 929-477-3565. That's 929-477-3565. And, again, just press that number 1, and we'll get you right in here.
Andrew, I've got something that I'm putting together here in Texas, and I don't want my listeners that are outside of Texas to think that I'm excluding you from this, but I'm asking you to follow by example, if you will. We have several groups here that have been working diligently at seceding our great state and becoming a nation. The problem is it is a long-term goal that is going to take years, not months, not days, not weeks, and we simply are out of time. We do not have time for that. As we speak, our own internal government and municipalities are being taken over and will soon be controlled by Islam. With that said, whether it is an Islam in that position, a Muslim, or whether the said government that is standing has been forced either by blackmail or monetary funds to become a part of that shadow government, we are in trouble. This speaks volumes to me. Number one, the terrorists are here, and they know who they are. You talked about the Holy Land in Addison in 1991. We had an investigation. For those folks who don't know who they are, it was a business that was set up in Addison, Texas, by the terrorists funding terrorism, and the Federal Reserve got brought in. Then the federal authorities began to investigate them, That is who CARE is. Many of the members from the Holy Land Foundation actually are in CARE. CARE and Sound Vision are holding hands. Those people also who started Sound Vision are a part of CARE. CARE is sponsoring the Capital Run that they're going to do here in Texas for Muslim Capital Day is what they're calling it. They already have prayed on the steps of the capital of Texas. These people have known ties. They are known terrorists, known ties to terrorist organizations. And our government, Perry, who has stepped down now, Abbott's taking control. Abbott, Dewhurst, the likes of them, they all know they're here. They've allowed their presence, which means they have put you in imminent danger. Understand this. The groups that are trying to secede Texas, I am calling a radio show specifically for those Texas groups. I would invite everybody across this country that listens to this broadcast to tune in that day and to bring your friends to the listening arena as well, as many as you can, because here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring all of these groups together, and we're going to do it on one radio show, and we are going to have a roundtable discussion, exchange of information in order to unite that coalition as one united front to fast forward with steroids to get it done. Because at the end of the day, Connie, you made a statement. God bless you, honey. I appreciate the statement that you made and understand where you come from. And everybody has their opinion. We cannot coexist with Islam. And there are very, 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 very vast number of us growing in that same thought pattern that we cannot coexist with them and they have no place in Texas, period. I don't give a damn where they go, but Texas is not a place for them, not for business and not to establish a life, period. They need to go. Islam has one agenda, and that is the end agenda that they wish to accomplish is to completely take everything away from us and to slaughter us in the end. That is their goal. We see this across the globe. We see it happening in Sweden. We see it happening in the UK. We already have no-go zones here in the USA. Listen, let me ask you a question, Andrew. If you had a farm, and on your farm you owned, let's just say 300 acres, and you had armed guards with AK-47s, and you conducted a training camp, militant training camp, what do you think your government would do?
When God moves, He moves. This
Andrew,
phone may die. If it does, I'll call back in on that phone. How much time we have, Bobby?
About 23 minutes.
All right,
okay.
Cool. Yeah, my phone's
Andrew,
beeping now. Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, what would they do to you if you owned 300 acres and you had armed, militant personnel that would shoot anyone that came near your property, which is your right to do? You can have security. But what do you think the government would do to you if you had a training camp like Islamabad set up?
Right. No, we already know. It's all this sensitivity to Islam, pandering to it's pandering.
That's the point.
Yeah, it's kind of gotten out of hand. Hey, guys, you might lose me before the 23-minute marker because I'm on a portable phone and I had it on speaker for a while, so the battery's beeping at me. But I guess the main things, that I'm focused on now. I mean, I've gone through the stages of, disseminating information from that side. I've dug in the Facebook pages. People don't think, they think it's these moderates. These moderates, will say, oh, it's just a small minority of radicals. But the fact is, when you take the population of Muslims and compare it to the percentage that they say or claim or are willing to admit are radicals, that you're talking about over 100 million, several hundred million. That would like to destroy us. Now, it doesn't take very many. You see they like to go after the large number of crowds. One person with a bomb strapped to their chest or, we've had clerics on, you can go and look them up on YouTube, that have talked about using packages of anthrax in a ventilation system. I mean, this is a cleric that's saying this, that they can wipe us out. This is years ago. Yeah, Ebola, that's another one. ISIS already claimed that they were going to try to use Ebola to wipe us out. We have a big fight ahead of us, and That may be for the future. Right now, what we need to do is counteractively, not just protest, but use intelligence and show people that are potential converts, that are Christians that have lost their way, or that it was someone who has no faith or down on their luck. Those are the ones that they go after. We need to, on online forums, on these pages that they create, we need to go in there. I don't care if they kick us out. They already done reported us today because my wife was busy debating with them, and she was very intelligent about it. And that's the ones they don't want around. They're leaving all these other people posting memes that are making fun of the prophet. Okay, that's funny, whatever, whatnot, but it's my wife's comments and my comments they keep deleting, and other folks that have been posting there with intelligent replies, responses, intelligent questions. They reported us today. We've already been shut down once about a year ago, had to start a whole new profile and try to recoup all of our friends, but we're at 3,800 right now, and they went and had all their Muslim friends report us for Suzanne and Andrew Clark rather than just Suzanne Clark. It's a dual profile, but I guess that doesn't match with Facebook's guidelines. But we've never had a problem until they did that.
Yeah.
So, so that any day now we could be shut down again. It's I've seen their pages, and you just got to dig in deep. It's a rabbit hole. You go to one page like the Karachi brothers that did this thing in Paris. The first thing I did is went online to Facebook, searched said Karachi. SAID and then space COURACHI, and I found a community page that he did over a year and a half ago or more, and there was all kinds of Muslims that lived in New York, some were in Michigan, some were. It was all spread out. It was incredible because you could see the people who liked the page. It was a page created with his name. It was a community page. Now they got ISIS flags flying on their post. Some of the people who liked the page posted things about, the Al-Qaeda, or I don't want to misquote, but I did definitely see ISIS flags on there. I saw people that were support against the U.S. and everything and destroying us. And that page, all of a sudden, my internet started messing up. Me and my wife were standing there okay, what happened? So we closed the browser down, restarted the browser. Everything worked but Facebook. Google worked. I would search on Yahoo. I did searches, and so my internet was working, okay? But in particular, Facebook, I could not access. I went to Is It Down For Me? It's a website that you can type in the web page to find out if it's just you that can't get to it or is it everybody. Now, when Facebook has an outage, everybody swarms to that site, and it said, no, Facebook is up because it checks it. Well, it said, no, it's up. So that means it was just down for me and my wife. Well, 20 minutes later, I go back and try it again. In throughout that 20 minutes, I was trying, and I, went to doing something else, and then came back, and actually logged in again to Facebook, and I got in, and it was fine. But the next day, that community page was scrubbed from Facebook. There's a reason for that. There were so many people that had liked that page of that terrorist that did that crap in France that they wanted it off there. I don't know how. I don't know if it's because of the fact there was a lot of people connected to it that were radicals, and they didn't want that to get out, and they knew someone would eventually find it. But that's the first thing. As soon as I heard about those attacks, I went straight to Facebook, used my social network, and did searches. That's what people can do. Use your network. Social network, it's like the NSA. Facebook ain't nothing you put on there that's private. Use it. Use it to your advantage. And don't put stupid stuff like I got 15 AK, 47s, and I got grenades, and I got, heck, you're going to be flagged real quick, and it ain't going to be just your Facebook page that disappears.
Yep. It's a damn shame because there is no more privacy. Privacy's gone. Privacy is a dead issue.
Yeah, well, you've heard of that show, Person of Interest. If you actually look at the trailer for Person of Interest, it's the guy from Lost, the bad guy. He plays the main computer whiz in Person of Interest. If you look at type in intro for Person of Interest, and I don't know if any of y'all have seen that TV show, but basically it's about this guy. They try to stop crimes before they happen. And in the intro, he's talking about, I made a meme of it with Mark Zuckerberg's face on it, but I used a quote from the guy that is the main character in Person of Interest. He basically says, I created this computer system or software that basically knows what you're going to do before you do it, or it's basically where it knows who you are, your friends, and everything else. our friends or what you like, dislike. I mean, come on.
Sure.
Facebook knows more about us than some of our best friends know.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
So now I highly caution you. All these, I didn't. One thing about the protest, I didn't like these. I understand open carry, but it's and there was a chance that we could have a lone nut out there that's radicalized, but that really didn't help the cause because the media focused on the guys with the guns. The Stand with the Prophet page, they got pictures and said, "Oh, these Islamophobes had their assault rifles and stuff," and we knew that going into it. We knew that wasn't going to help. I appreciate their vigor and their wanting to stand up for their right to carry open carry, but I don't know if that was necessary. I mean, I can understand. I mean, it felt good to have them there, but for the most part, they're not.
I think more their message was we do have the right to carry, and I think that their stance was, and I've talked to a couple of them. Hell, I even had my picture taken with a few of them.
I'm not against them. I know that they use it. I guess we can't stop the other side from using anything really to make us look bad. So
I think that there was a couple of messages that was sent there, and one was we do have our weapons, and Islam needs to be aware of that.
Yeah, that's true. And you got a great point, Connie. The fact that the police were all there and they didn't do nothing to them because it was their right to carry.
Right.
And the cops are pretty cool. I think they found some things amusing, but for the most part, I think they got, a lot of them probably feel like we do. When they go home and take off that uniform, a lot of them are just like us. They see it every day.
Well, that's
Becky,
our brother. Yeah.
It's
Becky, not Connie.
Connie, why do I keep on saying Becky? I said that earlier. My wife had to write down.
No, her name is Becky. No, her name is Becky. You keep calling her Connie.
No, my wife wrote Connie, so that's her fault.
She loves it.
Hey.
She loves it.
Hey. Listen,
no, my wife corrected me. She wrote down Becky. I'm the one that's got the memory club.
You
Sorry.
can call me anything, just don't call me late for dinner.
There you go.
Listen, I will say this, Andrew. I met a lot of people out there during the protest, and I met a lot of people who knew who I was because of Rage, so I know that we're expanding the audience. They weren't Facebook friends or Twitter buddies, or any of that. And that was really a great thing for me to hear someone say, "Oh my God, you're Becky Williams. I know who you are." We listened to Rage. A friend of ours turned us on to Rage. So this venue, we are reaching people, and we're doing it very rapidly. I've been working with Bobby. How long, Bobby, have we been together? About 6 months?
About 6 months, yeah. Yeah, about 6, 7 months, yeah.
We have seen this grow, and we have invitation to link up and stream through other resources that already have their own show, or they already have their own switchboard to stream us through. And I think that this is a great platform for us. I have suggested to someone else within our group that we possibly try to get some patriotic individuals who own businesses and corporations, fundraiser, people who are more versed in fundraising than we are, obviously. We couldn't know if we had to finance a loaf of bread for the Patriot movement. We've proven to ourselves that we couldn't do that.
I got ideas flowing through my head as you're talking.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I think, Andrew, people like yourself, me, Bobby, Wilbur, Bill, Jim at Bank versus You, a lot of us have great contacts that we can bring together and resources. Get some local cable channels. Start doing little news broadcasts up front and personal. Start getting this information out. But we need foot soldiers. I need foot soldiers who don't mind taking the time to print off 100 sheets of information and getting out in the public and handing those out, or putting them on car windshields about important events. Be able to make your PowerPoint very brief. People's attention span is so minimal when it's information they're not familiar with. But we need to be able to market the truth. That's important. Market the truth in another venue, because it is fed book, and it is fed Twitter, and it is fed seen and unseen. Even though you folks think that's secure, it's not secure. Don't ever think that there is any. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but see, one thing that a lot of people got to keep in mind, okay, when you do something like Becky and I do, you are painting a huge bullseye on your back, okay?
Oh,
you have to know that. You have to know that before going into it, because if you don't know that and don't realize it, don't be surprised when you get knocks on your door, or you get surprise visits from people, or you're getting tailed and you don't know what the hell's going on. Because if you don't think it happens, I've got plenty of videos to show you guys of helicopters above my head for long periods of time. For probably,
we're in a rural community.
Yes.
And we had a visitor shortly after we moved in, and that's another story for another night. But a person of Middle Eastern descent. I think it was a neighbor that used to be here. They tell me he's not here anymore, but that's another story. But yeah, that kind of woke us up to, hey, you know what I mean?
You will have a target. You will have a target. But at the end of the day, I'm going to add to that, Bobby. Target's already on your back, brother, because the government's already put it on your back. They brought these people here for a reason. When the dollar collapses and the tit comes out of the mouths of these little whodunit ghetto individuals that have sucked off of society all of their life for generations, when it comes out of the mouth of the invaders that have come across the border from all countries, not just Mexico, and been put on the tit that's draining America of its own resources state by state, when that happens, when we hit the depression that we're definitely headed for, when it all collapses, the streets are going to be filled with blood because those people have not prepared. They don't care. They're here to get what they can get, and they're going to kill you for what you have, to take your weapons, your vehicle. They're going to rape, murder. They're going to do all kinds of horrible things. Buildings and businesses will be burned, looted. You think the protest in Ferguson was something horrific? Let me tell you something. That's going to look like a nick as compared to a severed limb, if I could give you an analogy of what I think is going to happen. The streets are going to be full of blood, and that is all by orchestration, that this is going to occur. Then what we're going to see is Islam rise up, and they're going to hit us in the streets because that's why they're here. And then we're going to see a military influx, and we're going to see it from Cuba. We're going to see it from the South Americas. We're going to see it from the West Coast, from the Alaskan islands, from Russia, from China, off of California. They own a naval base there that Clinton gave to them. Obama's given Russia the Alaskan islands. We're going to see it come out of Canada. We are in deep shit. Anybody that thinks I'm blowing smoke up your butt, do your homework. I ask you, just like Bobby and I always tell you, don't listen to everything we say without doing your own research. Go do your research, come back and refute it. If you can prove me wrong, I would be elated.
Yeah, but you might teach us something too. You might find something that we said that was wrong, and you're gonna tell us what it is, and that's a good thing,
Right. It's due diligence. The whole thing with the border, going on that, I don't know if I mentioned in the last show, but I had a dear friend, and I'll memorialize him today. His name was Jesse Benavides. The show made it to, they did a show on him. He was murdered and gunned down by an illegal immigrant. It made it to Bill O'Reilly on 2 different episodes, and it also made it to Justice with Judge Janine Shapiro. It also made it to the First 48. I don't have very many friends. We learned the hard way that it's hard to find good friends, and he was a friend that I had known since I was 18 and he was 15. He was gunned down, and his 8-year-old boy was present when it happened at a kid's birthday party. So if anybody wants to look it up, it gives you a real shocking look into our immigration. This guy was supposed to be deported for the 3rd time, but was released by the Department of Justice. Eric Holder's office released this guy, and 2 weeks later he showed up at the party and shot my friend because my friend went out and confronted him and turned around and walked back in the house, and the guy gets out and unloads on his ass. The guy's name is that did this, and that's probably easier. Jesse Benavides, there's boxers and stuff, but so it's kind of hard to find the story, but if you type in Santana, Guyana, Santana, Guyana, Gaona, Santana, Guyana. The dude's still, this is in 2011 of October, and the guy's still fighting court, trying to go pro bono now. He's gotten rid of a couple of his lawyers, said they were discriminatory, what have you, but we're following up with the case online, with the online, it's free to look up the case history. You can even see everything that Santana has written with his own hand, because it's scanned in. But he murdered my friend, cold blood. Flat out cold blood, and it's because of...
How do you spell his last name again?
Gaona. And when you see his face, you'll know it's him.
His first name is Antonio?
Santana. Santana. Santana, Guyana.
Santana?
Yep. And then last name Guyana. Gaona. It's a really sad story, and I miss my friend to this day. I went to his funeral. And he was really close. I'm not BSing in the least when I said that me and him were close. We knew a lot about each other. We were very close. And then, it's unfortunate. I don't have any other friends besides him. The few that I've met, I'm still getting to know. But I knew this guy for a long time. And it was, like I say, Bill O'Reilly. You could probably find an old video uploaded. Bill O'Reilly covered 2 different episodes based on my friend's story. The first one was finding out that nobody wanted to admit which agency let him go. The DEA denied it, FBI, they all denied it, and they did a Freedom of Information Act. Bill O'Reilly, his people went and did a Freedom of Information Act, and they discovered it was someone that was up in Eric Holder's office had to make that call and let him go, because it turns out that Santana Guyana was a snitch against the cartels. Oh, he'll get his. Once he gets out of where he's at now and goes into his sentence, when they finally sentence him, he'll get his. I mean, you know how many cartels are up in the prisons? I'm pretty sure once they learned that he was a snitch against them, and it was because of a jealousy of his wife had left him after he had attacked her, and they let him out of jail even though he had raped his wife. They went ahead and released him anyway. Even he had an ice hold. He was supposed to go get deported, but for the 3rd time they let him go. No one wants to track him. You know, come on, if you're going to release a violent person like that, why at least stay on him, track him a little bit, keep somebody on him. But he shows up he could have been kids that got killed. They could have got a straight bullet, you know. My friend gets denied
he ruined the lives of the entire family. I experienced, not by blood relation, but my brother-in-law, to be at the age of 22, was murdered by an idiot, shot between the eyes with a .44 Magnum from about 2 foot away.
Good Lord.
At a bass fishing tournament, and his family had a lot of money, and it was right here in Texas. It was out in Breckenridge. And I know what frustration comes with that and how it ruins lives to have somebody step up and commit such a heinous crime and then go free for it, and finally actually wind up in prison for poaching.
The whole deal is, exactly. The whole deal is they come over here, and they don't get deported. Like that Hagiania I was talking about last week. They found his wristband up in the Walmart parking lot called the Pinal County, which is on the border of Arizona, and they told me they released him back into Homeland Security's custody, and then they don't know what happened to him because they're not told. DHS won't tell them what they do with these people. They release them back on the streets.
Sorry to interfere, but we've only got like about almost 3 minutes left.
I'm surprised my phone hasn't cut off.
Yeah, that's a good thing that it hasn't.
Yeah,
well, you know what?
Definitely.
We definitely want to thank you for coming back tonight. You know, you're always welcome to come here. I mean, we try to bring in new guests all the time.
Oh yeah,
to
definitely,
talk about new things, and to try to help, share, spread the word and share, good information, wake people up, but also support people that are out here fighting the good fight. So, by all means,
I'm proud of what y'all are doing, and I really appreciate you even calling me back to have me on again. I really appreciate the opportunity. So,
Andrew, I'd like to invite you back for the the show we're going to do with the heads of the folks in Texas that have been pushing for secession, I would like to introduce you to some of the group members that I know.
Sure.
That can be a definite asset, and we could certainly use a brilliant mind like yours to come in and start working with us on you and your wife both on a level that's going to assure we don't follow the direction we're taking.
I thank you a lot for that. That means a lot to us, and I don't give my wife near the credit she probably deserves, but she is. She's done a lot of. She's the book reader, and she's read a lot of Islamist. It's not like some attack books, but the books that kind of wake you up, and she'd be more than willing to share some of these books that your readers would find not only entertaining as a book read, but also educational as to learning more about.
Will you guys please write this down? This is my email, and for anybody out there that's listening, I don't
mind.
Yeah,
1 second. Let me grab a pen.
Contact me on my email address, and you and I'll share
sure.
a more open number of communication for us to speak on. ORF is in Frank, UN, or fun, 61 at hotmail.com.
Okay.
Please contact me. Shoot me a note over. We'll exchange phone numbers.
Okay.
I'd like to see folks again, person to person. And just sit down and have a chat, maybe invite you to a meeting or two that's going
sure.
on in your area.
Well, we got 5 wooded acres in the spring. We have a guy that we met that's working on a song that I wrote, and he's really good. We're going to get his band out here. We're going to try to. It's 5 acres that are wooded. It's kind of cool. No neighbors nearby. They're all retirees. They don't ever come out here often. So we're kind of out here in the neck of the woods by ourselves, and we'd like to have some company come see our little mini farm and kind of have a good nature. Everybody can camp out or whatever, and we'll have bonfire and kind of brainstorm. That'd be really cool.
Well, man, that sounds like a plan. Perhaps we could do that.
Yep.
Bobby, go ahead, close the show, brother.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have new people on, but one thing that I would like to do is I don't ask this enough of people. Please like us everywhere that we are. I'm going to play the information in a minute here, but I mean we're all over the place. We're on iTunes. Leave feedback if you can. If you listen to us on iTunes, if you follow us and listen to us on Spreaker, please like us and follow us everywhere and anywhere that we are. All you do is help us grow. Right now, iHeartRadio sent me a message the other day asking if I wanted to try to reapply and get back on iHeartRadio. I mean, we're all over the place. We're on who knows how many outlets, but we need to keep growing. Okay, so it takes all of you to help us to be able to establish that. So, but again, I want to thank everybody that's been listening tonight. Thank you all. For sharing information with us all the time and helping us grow. And with that being said, I want to thank you for coming on with us tonight. And you're very intelligent. You have a ton of information, and we enjoy having people like you on because I'm the type of person that I like to interview people and stuff. But people like you that have as much knowledge and stuff that you do. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. His name is Shy Townsend. That's not his real name, but that's the name that he uses when he goes on the radio because for what he does for a living, he can't use his real name. But Shy Townsend, who is another wealth of knowledge, if you go back in our archives and listen to the shows that he's done, I think you would be amazed. You two are a lot like each other. But
I like to connect. I like to connect because when you have two minds that have different knowledge, you put them together. Then just like with Connie said things that I haven't heard of yet. It's just hard to take on so much wealth of information and to network and share the information is exactly what they are doing.
Sure.
And if we can catch up to that speed, then we'll be all right. Or at least we'll have a fighting chance.
Well, until next time. We hope to, we hope that you will all join us here again. We don't have a show scheduled for tomorrow, but we will, we may do one on Spreaker tomorrow. We don't have one set up for here, but we're definitely going to do one on Thursday. So until next time, bye-bye for now.
Awesome. You're listening to the Rage Against the Regime podcast. Don't be a stranger. Like Rage Against the Regime podcast on Facebook or tweet us at RATR Podcast.